Iranians will return to the polls for a runoff presidential vote next week after none of the candidates scored a majority in the first round. The election is to replace President Ebrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash last month. Reformist Masoud Pezeshkian holds a slim lead over conservative Saeed Jalili, but turnout sank to a record low of only 40%. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei oversaw the selection of candidates. Citrinowicz is from the Institute for National Security Studies in Israel. I asked what it would mean if Iran were to elect reformist Masoud Pezeshkian.
Well, first and foremost, we have to say that these elections are actually a vote of non-confidence for the Iranian regime by the Iranian population. The Supreme Leader made it the utmost to convince people to go to vote, and the result is actually low turnout, the lowest in the Iranian history, the history of the revolution. And that's because the majority of the population in Iran actually is indifferent in so many ways because he cannot believe his ability to influence the regime and also doesn't want to provide legitimacy to the regime. Having said that, these are very important elections. Pezeshkian is a reformist. The reformist movement was almost died in the days of Raisi and now returning back to the stage. And if he will be elected, there won't be dramatic changes in Iran, but one thing is obvious, the chances of returning back to some sort of a nuclear deal are higher because this is what Pezeshkian is trying to do in order to lift the sanctions over Iran. So that, I think, will be the major change that you will see if Pezeshkian will win the second round.
And you mentioned voter turnout so low. How does that make the Supreme Leader look after pleading with people to vote?
It looks very, very bad because he was personally involved in trying people to increase the voting percentage. We have to understand that the regime is highly concerned from that. It sees actually its indication for the growing gap between the population and the regime itself. And actually, it's a direct connection to what we had in the Majlis results just a couple of months ago in the Iranian parliament, when it was also the lowest turnout in history in that regard. So we see the connecting line in the fact that the majority of the Iranian population do not believe that the political system can support it, can change something in Iranian trend. And that is a very dangerous trend regarding the Iranian revolution because they think highly of that connection. And if there is no connection like that, then there is a problem of legitimacy for the regime. That is why it's obvious that we try to do the utmost that in the second round there will be much more voting percentage. And I think the fact that you have ultra-conservative like Jalili and reformists like Pezeshkian maybe help them because I think a lot of people will go out and vote, not because they support Pezeshkian, but they're afraid that Jalili will be elected.
And that despite calls from Iranians abroad for a boycott of this election?
Well, there is, of course, a clash between the Iranian opposition of those who are against the regime. There are some, like Pezeshkian, like Zarif, like former President Rouhani, that think that the change need to come from within, meaning that we have to participate in the political system in the presidential run in order to make a difference. And they believe that if Pezeshkian will win, it will make a difference. But the other part thinks that you have to boycott it because regardless what will happen, at the end of the day, Supreme Leader Khamenei control Iran. He is the final decision maker in that regard. So regardless who will be the president, he will call the shots. So this struggle will come to its peak before the elections because for the first time, after almost 4 years of conservative President Raisi, you have a chance to return back a moderate president, and we'll have to see whether the opposition will be inclined to participate or not.
We'll have to leave it there, unfortunately. Middle East analyst Citrinowicz, thank you very much for being on DW News.
And for more on this, I'd like to welcome Roya Boroumand. She is the Executive Director of the Washington-based Abdorrahman Boroumand Center for Human Rights in Iran. Welcome to DW. Talk us through, please, the options that are facing Iranians. What will it mean for them if either the reformist Masoud Pezeshkian or the hardliner Saeed Jalili wins the runoff next week and becomes president?
Well, I think that there is no hope for real change. There will be very little change for several reasons. I mean, if Pezeshkian was allowed to run, and I don't think he was allowed to run to open up internally, there are structural obstacles set in by design by the founders of the Islamic Republic to prevent serious change. So he may, we may have fewer morality police. We may have fewer censored publications. But all in all, I don't think there will be much change.
Now, this election showed the lowest ever poll turnout in Iran, as I understand too, that over 1 million ballots were spoiled. A few days ago, you tweeted, many Iranians have given up on these elections for a good reason. Tell us what that reason is.
Well, there are several reasons. I mean, it's a long list of reasons. But the first one is that they have lost hope in all factions of the ruling elite. They can't run for office themselves. They can't form political parties. And they have tried through various factions of the ruling elite, and each time they have been disappointed. That's one reason. The corruption, the blatant corruption that they see as people are more poorer and less able to make ends meet is also one of the reasons. But also there have been several protests, and the protests have been nationwide since 2017, and each time they have been severe crackdowns, many people killed, hundreds killed. And as the daughter of a woman who was killed in Kermanshah in 2022 posted, between us and the ballot box, there are the corpses of our loved ones.
I'd like to ask you what you think is going to happen in the next few days and how they're going to play out in Iran in the lead up to this runoff election.
Look, first of all, I would take the numbers, official numbers, with a grain of salt. The Iranian authorities have inflated the number of voters multiple times, and therefore I don't see much. I mean, it's hard to speculate, but I think part of the reformist faction, part of them had not voted. They may vote by seeing the difference between Pezeshkian and Jalili being so small, but the majority of the Iranian people, even the constituency of the regime, is not going to vote because they are much more informed, and it's much harder to bring them to the polls with promises, especially women, because women are, the forefront of this defiance of the state nationwide. And it's not just one class or one city. It's just from the poorest localities to the to the biggest city, to the rich neighborhoods of big cities. Women are defiant, and they know that a small number of old clerics are holding their lives and decisions about what they wear, who they are with, who they dance with, where they sit, what job they can have. They know that these clerics are not going to change. So they have, I don't think they have a reason to go to the polls.
That was Roya Boroumand in Washington, D.C. I'd like to thank you very much for your time and your insights today.
Thank you.